Oh, baby. It is a beautiful Thursday morning. It is awesome. It's great to be alive. I hope my laugh and that shrill screech woke you up on this beautiful Thursday. Because, well, the Liberals' platform just got ripped out from under them. It's over. It is done. This is getting very, very interesting. What do you mean, Josh? What happened? What was in the news? What's been going on? What happened overnight that's leading you to say that this morning? Well, we had, the big anticipated April 2nd. Make sure it wasn't April 1st. It was April 2nd. Make sure it wasn't on April Fool's Day. Mr. Donald Trump released his tariffs for the world, or as he liked to call, Liberation Day. This is where he announced his plans for how he's going to tariff every nation in their trade relationship. Expecting Canada to get hit hard because that was been the threat, that Canada was going to get hit hard. Well, it turns out Canada was untouched through this whole announcement. We still have some tariffs applied to us in other industries, but with this announcement today, we haven't even been touched. So let CBC break it down here, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of it all.
Washington was in the Rose Garden looking at all those charts. Katie, what do you got for us?
David, we have all some clarity for Canadians after, so many sort of vague statements in terms of, was Canada going to get hit? What's it going to get hit by? All of that kind of stuff. The White House just sent out a fact sheet with a couple of very key, interesting points. And you just started on that path right there. For Canada and Mexico, the existing fentanyl, those border security tariffs, they're going to remain in effect, unaffected by this order. This means USMCA compliant goods will see a 0% tariff. Non-USMCA compliant goods will see a 25% tariff. That's already sort of in place right now. And non-USMCA compliant energy and potash will see a 10% tariff. So that's what is already in place right now. In the event the existing fentanyl and migration orders are terminated, USMCA goods would continue to receive preferential treatment, while non-USMCA compliant goods would be subject to a 12% reciprocal tariff. So for as long as these border tariffs remain in place, the USMCA carve-out continues, according to this fact sheet from the White House. Another thing, Canadians have been deeply concerned about tariffs are going to be stacked on stacked on stacked if they're going to apply multiple sort of layers of tariffs. This fact sheet says some goods will not be subject to reciprocal tariffs. These include steel and aluminum tariffs, autos and auto parts already subject to 232 tariffs, copper, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors. So Canada is already dealing with 25% steel and aluminum tariffs. These are not going to stack on top, according to this statement from the White House. And he's also sort of carved out a number of industries that he's looking to impose additional tariffs on, saying that they're not going to be hit in this retaliation. So in terms of Canada still is obviously dealing with a mountain of tariffs when it comes to the steel and aluminum tariffs and the auto tariffs that are going to kick in at midnight. But when it comes to additional layers of tariffs, this 10% baseline tariff is not going to apply to Canada and Mexico, and it's not going to be stacked on top of the tariffs that Canada's already dealing with.
So you catch that. CBC are doing their best to try and have some semblance of truth there, but still try to hit you with a little bit of fear. But what we know is no additional tariffs are coming to Canada, plain and simple. The only tariffs that we're getting hit by are anything that falls outside of the USMCA deals or CUSMA deals. Anything that falls outside of those are getting hit with the 25% tariffs. And if they don't, they are untouched and have 0% tariff on them, which is a lot of what we actually trade with them, because it really has to do with the fact that material that originates in either Mexico, Canada, or the United States is protected in that deal. Anything that comes from China, anything that comes from Europe is what is being subjected to that 25%. Same thing goes for our steel and auto tariffs. Anything that comes from outside of CUSMA or USMCA is getting tariffed, but the majority of stuff we use is actually within North America, and it's not going to be as impactful as the media is making it out to be. Surprise, surprise. The fear mongering, the fear porn that they try to drive on us isn't going to work. As much as they even try to, well, we still have the mountain of tariffs. And if you break down the tariffs, it's actually not industry ending as the media was reporting it to be, and as well as what Trump was leading it to be as well, in all fairness. This was big news for Canada. And big news for this election, because CTV got their big red banner out. We're going to, this is Trump's tariff war. We got to take it to them. And then the news breaks and they're still here, still trying to impose fear on the Canadian public. Canada fight Trump tariffs with purpose and force, Carney says. All right, you going to fight the boogeyman? You going to try and box a phantom? Is that what you're going to try to do, Carney? Well, look at Carney's demeanor. Look at Carney's facial expressions. Look at how he tries to engage the media for the first time in this campaign and first time at all, because he's getting desperate.
So President Trump has just announced a series of measures that are going to fundamentally change the international trading system. Now, in doing so, he has preserved a number of important elements of our relationship, the commercial relationship between Canada and the United States.
Look how disappointed he is.
But the fentanyl tariffs still remain in place, as do the tariffs for steel and aluminum. As of this evening, the tariffs on automobiles will enter into force, and the U.S. has signaled that there will be additional tariffs in so-called strategic sectors, pharmaceuticals, lumber, and
he's bummed out. He's so bummed out.
So we're in a situation where
I've lost my platform.
there is going to be an impact on the U.S. economy, which will build with time. In our judgment, it will be negative on the U.S. economy. That will have an impact on us. But the series of measures will directly affect millions of Canadians. We are going to fight these tariffs with countermeasures. We are going to protect our workers, and we are going to build the strongest economy
In the G7.
in the G7. In a crisis, it's important to come together, and it's essential to act with purpose and with force, and that's what we will do.
That's what we will do. I just lost my platform, so I'm still trying to drum up some drama. Gotta do it. It's over, baby. This is exactly what we needed. We are trying to avoid this carbon tax Carney, as they like to say. Trying to avoid a Mark Carney PM rule. Trying to avoid the Liberals taking on a fourth term and trying to avoid the Liberals putting the nails into our country's coffin. And right here, they were hoping. Mark Carney was sitting with his advisors, Gerald Butts and Katie Telford, just waiting. Please hit us hard. Please hit us hard. Please. They were cheering on Canada's suffering. I guarantee they were, because it would make them look good. Because what have they done? They have not really built out a conducive platform in this election. They have not introduced any policy announcements that are robust or thoughtful. It's just been like, we're going to just do this. Like, we're going to build housing. We're going to get in the housing business. We're going to cut down half of the cost of the building costs. How? Won't tell you how. Just says he's going to do it. That's what this platform's been about, because it's all been centered and predicated on Donald Trump and tariffs. That has been their platform. And that goes away. They have no platform. And the exact thing that they have been accusing Poilievre and the Conservatives of is the exact same thing that they are currently running on. Nothing. No ideas, no policies, no platforms, just Orange Man bad. That's all they got. And you can see it in his demeanor. You see it in his face right here. He's like, oh, shoot. This wasn't quite as diabolical an issue and a problem that I was hoping it would be. All right, I'm going to try and drum it up. CBC, can you guys try to make this sound a little more scary? I'm going to try and drum up the fear myself. These tariffs are going to have very minimal impact on our jobs and industry here. I'm not saying they won't have any impact. I'm saying they'll have minimal impact. It won't be as devastating as we are led to believe. That is a good thing for us. Good thing for our country. Good thing for our workers. And a good thing to strip these guys of their stupid platform that doesn't deliver any substance to the actual Canadian. Just fear, doubt, and uncertainty. And Table Salt brought up a very good point here. And I think it's very fair. He says, no one seems to care about the 100% canola tariffs or the Biden tariffs on lumber. This is starting to resemble a COVID crisis. Pay attention. And he's not wrong. We're not talking about the Chinese tariffs that were implemented. Not talking about the lumber tariff war that Biden put on us. There was never any talks of those. It was only Trump and him needling our political class here and them trying to use it to drum up fear. They're just going to make us our 51st state. Anyone who was paying attention know that that was complete and utter rhetoric. Now, there was a layer of truth to it, meaning if we don't deal with our China problem, there will be significant repercussions for it. But in the immediate sense of what they were trying to make it sound like, no, it's completely baseless. Not going to happen. And that's why, remember how this all started. Remember when Trudeau was lying to the media up here about his meeting with Trump? And then the White House press secretary says, well, you should really think twice before you start talking to the media and spreading overt lies. And then what happened? And Trudeau stopped talking to the media. Then he had the fake hot mic moment where he said, no, Trump's serious with his 51st state stuff. And that's where it all began. The rhetoric in the media of the 51st state. And let's not forget how it all started. Is Trudeau giving away all of our cards in that meeting saying, if you do X, Y, and Z tariffs, you're going to take us right on out. And Trump says, if that's the case, then we need to stop subsidizing you guys. And that was the point where Trudeau completely misrepresented Canada's stance and Canada's interests, which led to this rhetoric. And then he took that back to Canada, leaked it through a hot mic moment, and made it the biggest fear-mongering campaign since COVID in 2020. That is what happened. And that's why we can't get distracted by this. We need to focus on the actual issues, which is the cost of living, housing crisis, healthcare, fentanyl issues, Chinese police stations, China's tentacles being in our country, the CCP. These are the things that we need to focus on and get out of our country. Danielle Smith saying the very thing that we are celebrating right now. And she made sure to do her victory lap, and she deservedly deserved it. Sorry, I couldn't think of a better word there. Thus, today was an important win for Canada and Alberta, as it appears the United States has decided to uphold the majority of the free trade agreement, CUSMA, between our two nations. It also appears this will continue to be the case until after the Canadian federal election has concluded and the newly elected Canadian government is able to renegotiate CUSMA with the U.S. administration. This is precisely what I've been advocating for from the U.S. administration for months. It means that the majority of goods sold into the United States from Canada will have no tariffs applied to them, including 0% tariffs on energy, minerals, agricultural products, uranium, seafood, potash, and a host of other Canadian goods. Or potash, whatever you want to pronounce it, shut up. There is still work to be done, of course. Unfortunately, tariffs previously announced by the United States on Canadian automobile, steel, and aluminum have not been removed. The efforts of premiers and the federal government should therefore shift towards removing or significantly reducing these remaining tariffs on a go forward and ensuring affected workers across Canada are generously supported until the situation is resolved. I again call on all involved in our national advocacy efforts to focus on diplomacy and persuasion while avoiding unnecessary escalation. Clearly, this strategy has been the most effective to this point. As it appears, the worst of this tariff dispute is behind us. Though there is still work to be done, it is my sincere hope that we as Canadians can abandon the disastrous policies that have made Canada vulnerable to and overly dependent on the United States, fast-track national resource corridors, get out of the way of provincial resource development, and turn our country into an independent economic juggernaut and energy superpower. And that was from our friend Danielle Smith. She's fired up. She's doing her victory laps, and rightfully so. New innovative research poll. First poll that's come out since the writ was dropped and election was announced. The Conservatives are ahead in a poll. This is new. New to a degree. Conservatives have been polling between 36 and 40% most throughout all the polls. This is the first time Liberals are dropping, which means they're losing their base to the NDP. And again, you take the polls as a grain of salt. There's a lot of fishiness going on. And don't worry, tonight when we go live, we're actually going to have Reg on the show here with us. And we're going to get into all the polling issues. And trust me, we've been doing some heavy research into it and you won't want to miss it. But if we just take this for what it is, the Carney high is starting to wear off. And this was before the announcement of our tariffs. I'll be curious, April 5th, April 6th, April 7th, when the tariff news finally kind of settles into the population a little bit and they realize that it's not all big and bad as that they are led to believe. We'll see what happens with the polling then and see how the feeling amongst the Liberal base is vibing with Carney. Because then they'll maybe come out of their amnesia and realize, holy crap, this Liberal government's been screwing us for 10 years. Am I going to trust these guys again? No. This is Poilievre's Kingston rally last night. The energy is off the charts. Off the charts, folks. This is getting very interesting. Carney can't fill a pub, and out here, Poilievre's filling huge industrial-sized areas for his rallies. As we conclude, the fear, they're trying so hard. Look at CTV's front page here. The tariff war, they're still trying to instill that fear. Quite frankly, well, the Liberals just lost their platform last night. And we'll see how they adapt and see if they actually put some thought into some actual policies. But we know they don't. They're going to copy the conservatives. They're going to pull this, do that. Not going to have anything innovative or thoughtful. It's just going to be about trying to maintain power and fool Canadians into voting for them a fourth time. We'll see how this goes, folks. Enjoy your morning. I'll see you this afternoon. Have a good one. I'm out.